All right. Hey, everyone. Greetings. Greetings to all my enemies and all my friends. What a week it's been, and I'm glad to be here. And I am glad that I got my cigar walk over earlier because right now in Tampa, Florida, it is not sunny Tampa, Florida. No, sir, no, ma'am. It is stormy Tampa, Florida. So there may be, if there are certain gods out there that don't want this to happen, and I think maybe some people are praying for it. I don't know. But, if you lose me, you'll know the power went out. Just simple as that. Okay, look, this has been quite the week. And as I am wont to do, I am wanting to dig into something very, very constructive. And I'm excited today, this evening, to be able to have Max Freeman on, who is leads the Epic Coin project. And he's been so wonderful to me as a newbie because I've had lots of questions. And as I have held my little trials recently, there are certain things about, as I'm starting to understand the tech behind privacy coins, he's been very gracious to answer them. And I was, getting over my skis a little bit and asking him too many questions. And he very nicely said, hey, look, Uncle V, how about we just do a show and I can walk you through this, answer your questions, and then other people can benefit too. So that's what this is all about. This was going to be just a private presentation, and Max is that guy who just wants to help people learn. So Max Freeman, I'm going to hand it over to you. I've made you co-host. This is kind of your show from here on out. Why don't you introduce yourself, and we'll go wherever you want to take us.
All right. Thank you, sir. So just one minor point of housekeeping before we get started. Epic Coin is a dead shit coin. And we oftentimes get people that pop in and said, hey, I just bought a bunch on Hotbit. And then we have to tell them, I'm sorry, you got the wrong Epic. It shows up on CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap as Epic Cash. And it only trades on Vitex or VTEX, DEX, and Stellar. So the way that we describe it is that we're Epicenter DAO, a distributed autonomous organization. And our first protocol is called Epic Private Internet Cash, or simply EPIC, Epic. So, all right. So you asked me to come on, and a lot of people were asking in your chat group, Uncle V's Lounge, which I highly recommend. You've got a great group of people gathered there. That's a lot of fun.
Just so everyone knows, it is Uncle Vigilante Lounge, t.me, Uncle Vigilante Lounge. And we welcome you. It's just come to be a great community of a lot of people who are just eager to learn from each other, and lots of smart people are stopping in and teaching. So thank you for being there also, Max.
Oh, you are very welcome. So do you want to spread the links around and make sure that people are going to get a chance to see this? I'm just looking for one little thing here on my computer.
Let's see if somebody in the chat, can share this. Let's see. Let me do a share. Embed. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never been that guy. Once I start live streaming, I just don't have a lot of platforms to go share it around to. But if somebody in there would be kind enough to share this link anywhere you want to, that Uncle V is streaming live, that would be awesome. Wow, that lightning bolt came close. But yeah, so I'm not going to focus on doing that, Max. I love you. I just don't know how.
No problem. No problem.
I'm trying to learn how to chew gum and smoke a cigar at the same time.
Well, when I was growing up, until 6th grade, my mom would have me write my name on my hand every morning so that I wouldn't forget it in class. So I'm right there with you. All right, so I'm gonna go to screen share here. Give me one second. let me know when it comes through.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I can't wait to dig in because I have no idea why the title is Epic for Monero Maxies. because why? Because can you see that there, Max? Because I don't know shit.
Yeah, well, we'll unpack it. I've been a fan and a contributor and a holder of Monero for a long time in my civilian life. I was at Monero Con in Denver in 2019 and got to shake Fluffy Pony's hand and listen to presentations from people like Howard Chu and Christy Lee Minahan. So that was great. And then also, I highly recommend Monero Village at DEF CON. And I think that it would be great for people to understand how the question is not Monero or Epic, it's Monero and Epic, different tools for different purposes, and how if you look at the Venn diagram of what Epic is about and what Monero is about, it's almost a circle. It's uncanny that it's so similar that you're nitpicking over little differences here and there that may not matter so much to everybody, or maybe a super big deal to other people. And so warts and all, whatever good or bad we discover as we go through this comparative process, which I hope involves the audience as well. I understand we've got the ability to take questions through the chat stream, and maybe we can get a Reddit stream going as well, so that we can come back after and answer. It is low, if you wouldn't mind, or maybe Mr. Monkman. I'm thinking if we take the questions through Reddit, then we can come back later and circle back to them, because I think that there's no stupid questions, only stupid people who don't ask those questions. So
thank you for making me feel better. I needed that.
Yeah, so let's just dig right in. So this presentation is aimed at people who understand Monero that don't maybe understand much about Epic, or maybe think they know and maybe working on outdated information, or haven't really done homework, because it's Mimbo is a very deep thing. On the surface, it seems to be about privacy, but really when you unpack it, it's mostly about scalability, and that scalability, when applied in conjunction with a few other technologies, really becomes a 1 + 1 = 11 type of equation. And so hopefully we can set the stage to clear up some misconceptions about the technical foundation of the core protocol. And then maybe in a future stream, we can unpack as we get set to launch the Epicenter DAO and the ECR token here, how Epic and ECR work together to enable us as Epic holders essentially to mint ourselves interest-free stablecoin loans. EUSD is the concept. One Epicenter USD or EUSD is redeemable on demand for $1 worth of Epic Cash. So it's a trustless collateralized system similar to the DAI stablecoin that many people understand, but it has some unique features. And so if you understand Epic in a vacuum and say, hey, well, my privacy coin of choice is Monero. Okay, great. That is the privacy coin choice for many people, and maybe Pirate Chain or something like Firo would also work for your purposes. But we're going after a very specific opportunity in the market, and the privacy for us is a feature rather than an identity. And if you understand it in that way, you can appreciate that it becomes an and proposition rather than an or proposition. So before I lose my voice, because I have a little bit of a sore throat here, maybe we can jump right in.
Sure, do.
Epicenter is a community project we launched in 2019 in September. No ICO, no pre-mine. There were no VCs involved. No company gets paid off of the block rewards. It has a self-funding treasury currently at 6% off of the blocks that goes into a developer budget to make things happen. But the important feature there, we really tried to square the circle on no ICO, no pre-mine, not a security, to be safe on the regulatory side without having to depend on the fickleness of markets and contributors. Projects such as Grin and even Monero have they go through feast and famine periods in their funding through the community crowdfund structure. And so we said, yeah, there's a bit of centralization there that we don't like, but the benefit of that is that there's some stability. So we call it a self-liquidating bootstrap mechanism, and it goes down by 1% per year, and we're already well into the second halving cycle. So the remaining lift that miners don't enjoy is minimal, but it's a price well worth paying, is the feedback that we get, and it enabled us to really position ourselves really well on the tightened regulatory environment that we correctly foresaw. A lot of projects like, let's say, Library or Kin or Telegram they come to problems with regulators, and so we really don't expect that. And then the ECR token also benefits from that so-called virgin birth, as it is air grabbed to Epic holders. Incidentally, just an update for the community people who I know are listening. I got off the phone with Todd and Yoga earlier, and the contract for ECR is live on Rinkeby. We've got the people at WanChain set up to plug in their excellent layer 2 for low gas trading on WanSwap, which is basically a Uniswap on L2. It's got a direct bridge to ETH L1. So all that's good stuff and coming into place. And so after a long wait, I know it feels like forever, we're getting ever closer to having ECR tokens in people's hands. So that's exciting. The reason I jumped into that extended diatribe there was that this art that was made by one of our community members is really exemplary. It exemplifies on many levels how we as a community achieve things, because it's not as if we had a marketing department. Incidentally, we have no marketing department and our marketing budget is zero. Say, hey, we need some art to make us look hip and cool. No, it's passion from people that think what we're doing is cool, and they want to help add their embellishment, their flair to our brand and help it move forward.
Just to back the bus up, and you know me, I'll probably interrupt you sometimes. Try not to, but this channel is for newbies, so we need to start on the ground floor. What is Epic Cash for?
So Epic is a Bitcoin blockchain system. And what that means is that we took the Bitcoin emission standard of 21 million coins in the year 2140 and quadrennial halvings. After May of 2028, the supply curve of Epic and supply curve of BTC match up. And so from that perspective, it's identical. Also, we retain the game theory of how Bitcoin works, how it originally was designed, let's say, with what's known as Nakamoto consensus, which uses proof of work. In other words, a computational type of process to identify who wins the mining each cycle, and also something called the longest chain rule. And so that design is the most secure system known to man, and it has never been hacked in 12 years and probably will never be, because through the unique nature of proof of work, you've got a growing wall of encrypted energy that protects the value or protects the information inside from tampering, and also the pre-programmed artificial scarcity of how the emission reduces by 50% every 4 years. You've got an economic defense against that valuable data inside being compromised. because the units of currency or the space on that protocol, that blockchain ledger, become more scarce. And so it creates an interesting relationship between people today and people tomorrow. So I describe Epic as a financial battery. It's a system where if you put value in today, you have a reasonable likelihood of being able to get that value back out in the future. It is designed to function as a superlative form of money at the same time that it also can serve as a currency. Our key insight on coming up with the design for the Epic part of what we call overall the epicenter stable chain, which is mainly really around the stable coin itself, is that you need an enhanced censorship resistance version of Bitcoin. Essentially, with transparent addresses, BTC means that you have to worry about tainted coins. If you're an institution complying with regulations, you need to run all these complicated processes on making sure that you don't get bad coins into your shop, in essence, and it adds a lot of friction in the system. And so we, working with 10 years later technologies, were able to solve some of the key pain points that are causing challenges in the BTC world, and provide essentially a graceful upgrade path for the world, from essentially 3G to 4G, if you will, the same song, but on a DVD platter rather than a CD platter. Mimblewimble is essentially a data compression technology that enables us to take what is currently a 300 gigabyte chain file on BTC and compress that into a much smaller footprint. Now, due to smaller use, our chain file is only 1.5 gigabytes, which means you can run it on a cheap mobile device. And even at BTC scale usage, it'll still be about 90% less. So let's say 25 or 30 gigs versus 300. And that means you can run the full system in your pocket without having to trust anybody and connect to someone else's node, which might also want to impose terms of service and other regulatory and surveillance constraints on you.
Wow.
If you've got the whole system in your pocket, then you are self-sovereign in your financial dealings. And so Epic may not be the money for everyone, but it's the money for me and a growing number of people, where it's increasingly proven as a safe store of value. And so essentially we took the Bitcoin design and said, how would Satoshi have designed this with a clean sheet of paper starting in 2019, 10 years later? And certain key choices became obvious. You wouldn't go with a single algorithm, namely SHA-256, because then you create vendor lock-in at the ASIC hardware manufacturer level. And it also creates a geopolitical problem, because if those machines are only created in a certain country, then, and if that country is behind a tariff wall, then it doesn't matter how green your energy is in Texas or Canada or Iceland or El Salvador. If you're waiting 6 months and you're paying 50% more and a 3-week time on the boat, you've got a structural cost disadvantage. And that means that the economic security of the network is a thing of geopolitics and not technology. And so we developed what we call a flexible cipher policy. In other words, multi-algorithm design, where each block, it's essentially a coin flip to say which algorithm gets the block reward, and 60% uses the same algorithm as Monero uses exclusively, which is called RandomX. And RandomX enables an ordinary desktop computer, a laptop or a PC, or even with a modified variant, a cell phone, to run that computation and help secure the network through proof of work. Other purportedly mobile mining networks, such as Electroneum and Pi, they are not doing mining. They're essentially just drip feeding the coins. It's like a sleight of hand. It's not true mining. And so RandomX is a great algorithm, and Monero definitely made a step forward in decentralization in moving from Crypto Night, which was primarily GPU targeted, but also had a heavy ASIC presence, to RandomX. The Monero, I believe it was November 30th, 2019. that they converted to RandomX on mainnet. Incidentally, as the audience is listening, I would rate my level of Monero knowledge at maybe a 5 or 6 out of 10 at best. And so if anybody knows any of these points better than I do and can point out anything that I'm saying wrong, definitely please feel free to let me know. That would be appreciated. And so essentially 60% of the blocks go to the CPUs on RandomX. In that perspective, it's exactly the same as how Monero works in its network structure with Nakamoto consensus.
Is there a visual that you can I just want to kind of keep it as people come in, they're staring at the same
sure.
Or you can stop sharing the screen and they can see me nod and
no, that's fine. Incidentally, epicentral.io has lots of great content. That's actually, let me actually go there.
Okay.
That's probably a better one. This embarrassing.
Everyone in the chat, you rock. Thank you for being here tonight. Sup, Ronaldo. Sup.
Who all is in there? Let's do some shout outs.
We have Major Minor, Fausto Copita. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
That's my buddy Norsimo. Welcome, Norsimo.
Ronaldo, 3 Lita, Izzy. Yeah, baby. We got a nice group.
Right on. Yeah, so lots of great content on oh wow, we don't have the white paper on here. Okay, note to self, let's add the white paper on there, or at least make it more clear. Let me change this. Whoops, that's no good.
But I hope people who are watching or listening to this after can appreciate why, as I've been going through the trials and I've been trying to learn, why I have a strong affinity for Max, because you can just tell he has a degree of competence that and the ability to speak in pictures for me, which I really appreciate, but and the patience and the time to come in and help us learn. So I can't get me enough of me some Max. There you go. All right.
So, okay. So let me pull this up. Now this white paper is up in over 24 languages on epic.tech. And then we've got about a dozen PDFs in a dozen languages on epicentral.io. So those are great sources of info. Maybe we can throw the links up in the chat or the description so people can find them later.
If we could, just anybody that knows where those are, if you could grab those links and post them, that would be great, because I can 100% guarantee you I won't.
Okay, so this PDF viewer is suboptimal.
It's all right. Just a little bit to be able to.
Can you see that? Can you see that there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here is the emission. This is really the key. True protocols, in other words, tokens, which are really more like shares in a company because they're dependent on the actions of the management, if you will. A true protocol has things like its emission baked in at the outset, and it really can't be modified, because if you modify it, then it's a different coin. Nobody would say that BSV, as an example, is the same as BTC, even though they share the common lineage and a lot of features, because they made changes, or the two networks evolved in different directions, let's say. And so since you can't mess with it and the design is baked in ahead of time, you really have to act with considerable foresight and careful consideration about how you want it to go. Basically, proof of work is not just a network security strategy, it's a coin dispersion mechanism, and ensuring a wide distribution of who holds the coins is really crucial. Centralization in BTC is really increasing the number of addresses that hold more than 1,000 coins is growing rather than shrinking, which is the opposite of what you would expect to see in a network that is hopefully reaching mass adoption. You would want to see more small holders, not a greater concentration. And so we thought long and hard about how do we ensure that as wide a group of people can participate in mining. And this is what we came up with. So we are into era 2 right now. The block reward is currently 8 per minute. BTC is 10 minutes and Monero is, I think, 2.5 minutes. So the heartbeat of the network is relatively quick at 1 minute. There are a lot of other networks that are faster, no doubt, but apples to apples, it's pretty skippy. And so the era 2, let's see here. What am I looking for?
See,
okay.
and just taking a moment right here, again, from a newbie's perspective, this is what has intrigued me about you, or what has triggered my brain into wanting to go deeper into this, because what I see in chats is there are some chats that if you just enter in Epic Cash, there comes up a one-liner that Mimblewimble is not as fungible as Monero. They're just a one-liner and so basically what happens is it just basically one sentence just dismisses everything that you're talking about here. And for me, that's not doing your work. That's not doing your homework. And if you shut everything down before you can explore it, just because it's not, your preference. No. Again, it doesn't have to be either or. It can be both and. Let's understand the why behind it. And when you understand that you are making decisions at the origin of this project that are far-reaching, years, decades, centuries in advance, it's a big deal.
And it can never change. Immutability is a serious promise.
Right.
It's not mutation resistant. It's immutable.
It's immutable. That's right. As a matter of fact, it's funny, on the one pager, you had what was the 6.66 or whatever? What was that number related to that I...
Oh, yeah, the bootstrap treasury mechanism.
Yeah, so it said 6.66, and I said, you know what, you might want to change that, because then you're going to be the devil coin, obviously, and you're like, it's immutable, and I'm like, okay, I don't know shit, I don't know what that necessarily means, but you'll explain it to us later. But basically, look, decisions are made, and regardless of, I guess 6.66 will become 3.33 or something like that. So,
yeah, right. it goes down 1.11 per year. So okay. We said we studied funding challenges and governance challenges in essentially every project that existed that we could find. I mean, not just production networks, but also just white papers and stillborn dreams. And we said, like, starting from a clean sheet, how can you best do this? Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just I just wanted to welcome Media Bear in the chat. If those of you who don't know Media Bear, please, after this, make a note to go search Media Bear on YouTube. And the guy is an absolute brilliant genius from an entertainment standpoint, creativity standpoint, playing footsie with the line standpoint. That'll become clear and evident tomorrow night. But Media Bear likes him some crypto too, and is an enthusiast. And so I saw that he was in the chat, recently, and I'm like, whoa, Media Bear. And so I invited him on, and we are going to have a blast tomorrow night at 7 p.m., 7 to 9 p.m. We're not going to go into technical analysis. That's really not Media Bear, nor my gift, but we're going to have a ball. So I welcome everybody, or I invite everyone to come back tomorrow night and join us. It's just going to be a blast. Sorry about that, Max.
No, sounds like a good time. So back to the boring stuff. We said what promises will we make in the white paper? Because we came of age, what is now out there as the Epic white paper came together in a semi-solid way, let's say late 2018-ish. And we had just been through the boom and bust go-go days of the 2017 ICO craze, and then the subsequent collapse. And so we said, okay, whatever we say here, we're going to have to stick to it. And we're going to set ourselves to the highest standards, just so that we have a solid foundation, that the sands underneath our feet won't shift as we're on the journey. And so, excuse me here, just 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
And so with respect to the distribution of which algorithms get the rewards, we said our promise is that we want to promote maximum decentralization. I lost my train of thought for a second, but what I was referring to is we wanted to hit the same Satoshi standard of, at the same time we release the white paper, we release the network itself, and it's fully functional. And you don't have to trust that you will give your energy, your attention, your money to this thing, and then we will go build it. Trust us, it's going to be great. No, this is the functionality of the thing that we built. If you want to go use it, this is how to understand it. And so even from the earliest days, just establishing the pattern of interaction between us and the wider world, that less belief and faith and trust is required. The code is out there, it's open source. It's audited in many cases, multiple audits depending on which part. So really designing for high assurance and peace of mind. We think that the go fast and break things attitude is really not the right approach for this. And so we said these are our best guesses as far as what the algorithm mix should be. We started out at 38% GPU, 60% CPU, 2% ASIC, and then it was supposed to go to 30%, in other words, down by half on CPUs, and 65% ASICs. We thought Ethereum would go to proof of stake earlier, and it didn't. So there's still a huge demand out there for people to mine Ethereum. Incidentally, I did the math for somebody today that is mining Ethereum with a 3090, a monster of a card, and they're getting 52 mega hashes a second, and they're pulling in $6.90 a day on ETH. And I ran the numbers, they would get $10.8 at Epic's today price. So about 50% more, but it does so at a 62% reduced power draw. So what is that? Effectively double watt for watt. So I said, buddy, hey, you may not care about some random shitcoin in your eyes, but you'll end up with twice the ETH that you want if you mine Epic and then swap that for ETH, and here's how to do it. Oh, hey, thank you. And so our intention here was, how do we get the coins in the maximum number of hands?
You just said some random shit coin, so I want to.
We take a lot of heat. We take a lot of slings and arrows.
but no, but I'm asking, why did you say random shitcoin? Because you're the furthest
that was his words.
Oh, his words. Okay, because you surprised me there. I was like, I've never heard you refer to Epic Cash. Okay, got it. Those were his words. Okay.
Well, I mean, Amazon.com was a shitty little bookseller until it wasn't.
Right.
Right. I mean, pick any overnight success, 20 years in the making. Who could have possibly imagined? Right. Yeah. People are busy and it takes time to dig into this stuff. I mean, hell, we're going to take 2 hours tonight and probably barely scratch the surface. Mm-hmm. So people are busy, and it takes time to absorb novel concepts and so on. And it just, takes time to get it. So anyway, we said, how do we get the coins into as many hands as possible? That's the key challenge. One way is to spread out the distribution. It takes, I think, a decade to reach 90%. One of your other favorite coins is at 90% in under 3 years, which has been something of a challenge, at least optically, or in terms of how to explain that. And so with Epic at only 55% emitted and 40% on the table over the next decade or so, there's just a massive opportunity for people to go back in time, even if you have modest hardware, to rewind the clock and get into Bitcoin mining back when nobody knew about it, because it is still possible to earn quite a bit of Epic with an ordinary computer. And we're working really hard to make things easier. Incidentally,
and I'm just going to insert here that that I have a very good friend who owns a call center and has 100 stations. And he watched one of our previous shows and he said, "I like what I heard. How do I get Epic?" And then I said, "Hang in there. I just I'm posting a video on how to buy Epic. So for those of you watching that you don't know, but it's down there. It'll be obvious." So he went and he bought some, and he said that, wow, that was fast. Had a really nice experience. And then he heard us talking about mining, and this is what's beautiful. His entrepreneurial brain went to, okay, I have 100 seats, and you're telling me that I can actually optimize my my hardware while my people are serving customers in the background and be mining Epic. And I put them in touch with you, and you guys are working on that. And then there's a there to where, hey, what if that became a product for every call center out there to be able to make money while that goes right to the bottom line while your agents are servicing other customers. So that's just kind of how this works. Is one idea leads to the other, and when you're in a project that is young like this, but has the foundation of the best of, if you had to read, if you could, as you said earlier, if you had to design Bitcoin with today's technology, what would it look like? That's what's really cool about this. Okay, sorry for that.
Yeah, no problem.
No idea what we're looking at here.
Yeah, me neither. I can barely spell computer. Give me 1 second here.
All right.
Okay, I'll come back to it. I'll come back to that later. I was just pulling up mining profitability. All right, so we're in era 2. What we did was carry over the original percentages 60, 38, and 2. The way it works is that your devices are on standby mode, not consuming power when your hardware is ineligible. So if you have let's say a Ryzen Threadripper, a beast of a CPU, it'll only be mining Epic 60% of the time, because Epic only can run effectively on your device when it's the random X time. The GPU algorithm is ProgPow, which works great on older cards. You can even run it on a 3 gigabyte 1060, or I think even two gig cards will work. So in a lot of ways, Epic extends the life of older hardware, and in that way has an environmental benefit. And so we kind of gave ourselves an out to say we reserve the right to change the percentages to promote maximum decentralization. And so if we had gone with the 30 and 65 that was originally set out in the white paper, not to mention the 5% of ASICs, because Grin, the donor code base that we got our original stuff from, the business case for investing in Cuckoo ASICs fell apart, let's say. Let's be charitable and put it that way. And so essentially there are no ASICs, and people are just using Burley GPUs to mine it. And so through a very thorough discussion process conducted out in the open in our community chat channels, we said, how are we gonna how are we gonna do this in the upcoming era? Okay, let's do this, and then we did it. So we had an effective mechanism off chain to collaborate to do stuff like that. But with the impending launch of the ECR token, we have on-chain governance stuff from a network called Compound, COMP is the project. In fact, I'll bring it up. Shout out to Compound. They're really cool.
Okay, and I want to make sure we still have time to go through your main.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
Yeah, this is
we go down rabbit holes with
probably
this stuff,
getting into the weeds. You know
Okay, yeah, we'll leave it, and let's get back to the key part, which is comparing for Monero. Okay, let me bring that up. You can tell I am better behind the keyboard than behind the microphone as a presenter.
I'm just this is all fascinating, but I think we want to try to my favorite line, dumb it down so that all understand it.
Thank you for keeping us on track. All right. So, so the project structure, both Monero and Epic are community projects with no ICO, no pre-mine, and no sponsoring or controlling corporation, and no VCs as well. When you use Epic, there's nobody in a mahogany paneled library somewhere with a snifter of brandy rubbing their hands and counting their money that you made for them. This is the people's money, and so we're keeping it close to home. So similar to how Monero began life as a chance to correct the shortcomings in Bytecoin, which provided the code as a jumping off point, Epic used Grin as a basis. And if people are interested in why, we explain that in our technical white paper. Incidentally, I believe you have this Google Doc link, and so feel free to share that. Anybody who's listening, I know we
if
pass
anyone
it around.
who's listening, because I'm not going to be able to find it.
Okay. So another key design distinction is that Epic is written predominantly in Rust. Rust is a very memory safe language that reduces the scope for developer error. All of our code is 100% free open source. And while our specific implementation hasn't been audited, we felt we didn't need to because all of the code components that we brought in had themselves been brought in. And so if you have safe ingredients, then you probably have a safe recipe. And so far that's been proven right. We did have a value overflow incident, as all Mimblewimble chains written in Rust did in March. And so same as BTC in 2010, the approach we went with was to fix it and then roll back the chain to the last known good point. So if you're doing your homework into Epic and you say, why is the chart a flat line from March 12th until whatever, or whatever the date was? March 12th was the event, and I think trading was halted on the 19th or something like that. So that's a bit of background. We went through the monetary policy. So Monero has a tail emission, but practically speaking, it kind of tops out at 18.4, and 97% of that is already out. So the big money has kind of already been made there. If you were on the right side of that, good for you. If not, it takes quite a bit of heavy duty hardware to mine, and the rewards are into the heavy, let's say into the phase where, you know, if you're looking at it down here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but when it started, it was a rocket ship, and now it's kind of more gradual. So our curve is very gentle. It's very similar to BTC. There are four halvings or 4 emission reduction events in the next 7 years. In October, the supply gets cut from 8 per block to 4. And then 2 years later, approximately, it goes from 4 to 2. 2 years later, it goes from 2 to 1. And then about 2.5 years later, it's a huge reduction. It goes from 1 all the way down to 0.15. So the last halving is an 85% cram down of emission. We know from the history of BTC what halvings do as far as number go up, pumpamentals. And so while we don't talk about that, if you take the time to look at the DNA embedded in the design, it should be strong as far as store of value.
So with that, if you had to rewind and just do a comparison, where is Epic now? Like if you could rewind to Bitcoin mining, what year would it have been if you were a Bitcoin miner, if you got involved, that would be comparative?
2010.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Those people paying attention who are interested.
Well, but there's a key difference, because
Okay.
even by then you were getting out of being able to mine on SHA-256 on an ordinary PC. So unless you had a high-end graphics card or some of the newer FPGA and ASIC stuff that started coming out, I wasn't part of the industry back then, so I'm operating based on what the old timers tell me. But already by then, the opportunity to get in via mining was increasingly off the table for people. And here with RandomX and its offshoot variant Random ARM, which is a mobile targeted algorithm that'll run probably, let's say, I don't know, 10% of the time is probably my best guess. 5.2 billion devices that currently can run the whole chain file and sign and send transactions. Incidentally, signing and sending a transaction on mobile on Mimblewimble, unlike ZK Snarks, which can take over a minute unless you use a light client, which is not the same in terms of security and how you interact with the network. Instead of freezing your phone for a minute or two, it's instant. And so being able to turn on mining for 5.2 billion low-end mobile devices could be it could be explosive. And so we're taking the time to do it right. But it's the strategic imperative to figure out how to get everybody plugged in at the wellhead, which is through true proof of work mobile mining.
Wow. Okay. That's a great sound bite.
All right. So so the bottom line is that the daily emission of Epic is going to drop by 98% over the next 7 years. Right now, there's 11,000 coins a day available for mining. And in May of 2028, that will be only 210 coins.
Wow. Okay. 11,000 a day until October.
And then it goes to 5,500.
Right. So, okay.
Yeah, 4 halvings in 7 years.
Now I understand why a buddy of mine in another chat who has mining experience was, shit, I need to get started on this yesterday. So that's okay. I understand now.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff baked in here where you have this forehead smacking moments. And you go, God, like I personally was fairly dense and didn't get into a BTC until it was far too expensive. And I go back in time and said, man, I shouldn't have listened to Paul Krugman. I shouldn't have listened to Peter Schiff. I shouldn't have listened to Nouriel Roubini. I shouldn't have listened to CNBC, Wall Street Journal, Economist, Financial Times, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs. They were all just simply flatly wrong. And so now everybody has a chance not just to have participation in the financial speculation, but also really the direct utility. Because even though it's small, Epic is used fairly widely as money. You can get spinal injections in Florida from the best place in town. You can help people in Africa plant trees. You can fund over 200 causes and charities and content creators who are facing censorship resistance and or censorship, cancel culture, and demonetization on centralized platforms on a site called epicfundme.com. And so Epicenter writ large more broadly is an engine of entrepreneurship. And because we've taken the barriers to entry so low and we'll continue to work on ease of use and usability, it's truly a potentially an Epic. a money system for everyone, not just those who have the proper documents and happen to live in the right places. We're getting into a financial apartheid type of paradigm in crypto that reflects the same inequities in the legacy financial system, because if you live in the wrong place, then you're kind of out of luck. And so Epic enables everyone to plug into everyone else simply for the ability to download an app.
Wow. That's amazing.
All right, so above all else, Epic is a financial battery. Its job is to enable you to get back out the energy that you put in. And so hopefully the growing utility and adoption mated with shrinking supply equals a greater capacity to retain value over time. So on the tail distribution versus a fee market, my big point there to people that want to debate how many angels can dance on the head of a pin is that that's 100 years from now. And we're here today. So the whole what's better, a tail emission versus finite supply, we'll let our grandkids figure it out. Epic has 7 very juicy years of mining ahead of it. So on the technical details, let's see, maybe somebody has a comment here. Oh, no, okay, that's not helpful. So the block time in Monero is 2.5 minutes. In Epic, it's 1 minute. I believe the block size in Epic is, or in Monero is variable. In Epic, it's 1 megabyte. That gives us a throughput, transactions per second of about 15 to 17. We're not anywhere near that in terms of usage, but that is the capacity that's there in the current configuration. Incidentally, one of the reasons that we chose Mimblewimble was because of the clean sheet of paper that it gives us in terms of low technical debt to be able to make choices to improve things, which I know is a struggle from some of the projects that have also forked off of the Bytecoin code base. We've got a good solid jumping off point. And so if we start bumping up in capacity limits, we also made the commitment to stay true to layer 1 scaling and resist the temptation to degrade the security and availability and liveness properties of the system by going to the layer 2 shortcuts, frankly, that other networks such as BTC are doing with Lightning and Liquid. And so by taking the block size up and the block time down, for example, let's just say to 2 megabytes and 30 seconds instead of 60 seconds, that would give us 60 transactions per second. And it's not apples to apples versus many of the proof of stake systems, incidentally, because Epic, like BTC, has a horizontal scaling design, whereas the other systems scale vertically. And the nature of Mimblewimble, particularly when we take it to a multi-asset system versus just a single asset system. In other words, an Ethereum token transfer type setup where you can run token transfers on the same base rail as the currency itself, then you get even more benefits because it all occurs in parallel rather than sequential. So again, back to the moral of the story that people think Mimblewimble is a privacy thing when really it's a scalability thing and a fungibility thing. Fungibility comes from that confidentiality where you have fully blinded encryption or fully blinded amounts and addresses. Nobody can see anything. And that means things like minor extractable value, what EIP 1559 was designed to mitigate in Ethereum. We don't have that problem because nobody, the miners don't know anything about any transactions. And so you can't filter and sandwich and front run them and do all that kind of tricks. So there's a lot of, I look at Epic as a coiled spring. There's a lot of latent potential, unrealized that just hasn't been gotten to yet. Instead of having a design where you're already squeezing every last bit of performance out of it, we're racing along and the engine is at 1,000 RPMs going, all right, put a spoiler on this thing and throw more people in, and let's get this party in high gear. So we can handle 1.4 million transactions a day on the current configuration. And if you do the math on how many credit card swipes that avoids, how many $7 Western Union remittance fees, how many $45 Bank of America wire transfers that take 3 business days to clear and don't settle on weekends. I mean, the list goes on. We can add hundreds of millions of value straight to the bottom line of our users if they'll simply switch to this as a payment rail versus whatever else as a payment rail.
So let me ask you this. How do you, I'm just thinking about my own operating reality, but how would you go about getting mass retail adoption of accepting Epic? Because it's one thing to be able to say how great it is, but for me, it's like, I don't know where I do, and saying
Great question.
Saying that it's at 100 places and a spinal place, it doesn't hunt for me because that's not utility for me. So
yeah. Well, okay, that's a great question. So number one, it doesn't matter if Epic can be used by everyone everywhere. What matters is its relevance to your personal economy in your life. So I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine that gets a massage once a week, and he pays his massage guy not through Square or Stripe or PayPal or Venmo or one of those things. He pays him in Epic. And so it doesn't matter what the price is. That guy pays his $60 to his therapist in Epic. It works for them. They've created a local micro economy. His cleaning lady, valets. I mean, you name it. It's really limited by your own creativity. So that
how would I go about talking to my cleaning lady and saying, "Hey, let me tell you what you should do." I mean, because look, it's you still have to download the
Vite
apps.
Yeah, you download the Vite wallet app.
So, but it's when you search for it, it's Vite Exchange, right? Or
no, it's Vite wallet, VITE wallet. And let's throw the links up. Yeah, we're working on a website called buyepiccash.com that brings all this content together. Okay. If anyone wants to help, DM me, and I can get you involved and we can bring that to light. So yeah, she would download the app, give you her address, and then you guys agree, okay, I owe you $60. CoinGecko tells me the price is 30 cents.
Okay, can you do me a favor? Can you do me a favor? As you're wargaming this out, because guys like me want the easy button, is there a way functionally that an app that I could be able to plug in $60 of Epic and just put 60 instead of pulling up CoinGecko and send it to her, and she would know that she got $60 instead of making us jump through these hoops that nobody's going to jump through. Thus, that's adoption.
Yeah. So I was explaining how people are using it today. So in 2010 in BTC, people forget we didn't have Coinbase. You had to send a wire transfer to a sketchy place in Japan called Mount Gox. Let's be real here. This thing is only 18 months old, or 21 or whatever. It is. Time flies. But so that is how people are using it today. It's fundraising, P2P, local commerce, and the odd merchant, like my friend, the spine surgeon, who did the math and said, wait a minute, like, you mean I can get my money instantly and have 0% fees rather than waiting 3 to 5 business days and they take 3% and then the customer has chargeback? It's funny because the reason he got started with Epic is I was wearing my shirt, and as I was standing in his office trying to fiddle with my credit card, the company declined the charge and insisted that I do a video face verification thing. I had to agree that they would be able to sell my data and jump through all these hoops. I was fiddling with my driver's license, trying to punch in the buttons as people behind me were all angry. And in the end, after 30 minutes, I could not get their system to work. And I had to go, Doc, like, do you trust me to not run out on the bill like, I'll get you covered. And he's like, I'm really sorry. This has never happened before. And I'm like, I'm very sorry, because I've been a customer for 10 years and I've spent a lot of money with this bank. I don't know why they're making me jump through these hoops. So anyway, after a bit of talking, he goes, well, hell, I'd rather have Epic than that credit card money. What do you say? And then helping him jump through the hoops of getting started gets back to your point about making it easier. Local advocacy of pushing adoption and finding ways around the reasons why not, and getting to reasons why yes, is very important. But really, to make it easier, we need to take certain steps. And so EUSD, in other words, Epicenter USD, the stable coin where one EUSD is redeemable for $1 worth of Epic Cash, is that transitional technology. It's that bridge as a common unit of account that lives both in crypto and in the legacy financial system as a same dollar, at least if such a currency can retain the peg, which is of course the key design challenge in any stable coin system. And we can talk a lot more about that later, I'm sure we will. But basically, from a merchant perspective, the merchant will not be accepting Epic unless they want to. They'll be accepting dollars and simply using Epic as an intermediate payment rail. So once we get things set up, what I'll be able to do through the mobile app, instead of letting Synchrony Financial scan my facial features and sell them to advertisers, I'll be able to issue myself an EUSD denominated interest-free loan when I need to pay for my treatment. The Epic gets locked into my own smart contract vault. I'm essentially borrowing from
this is important,
my
everyone.
future self.
I'm going to tell you to stop, or ask you to stop, because I want to. This is so important what you are saying, because this is real life. This is okay. Go. If I were
right.
on a Star Walk,
so
it would be fitting right now as an exclamation point.
You're too kind. So instead of spending my Epic, which they're talking in Washington about an 80% special capital gains rate for crypto people this year. So instead of selling and having not only a short-term capital gains rate most likely to pay, or short-term income or capital gains, in other words, a punitive tax rate applied, I am taking a loan, which is therefore by definition non-tax. There's no interest on the financing because it's not a debt-based currency scheme like the current Federal Reserve note-based system. So I'm essentially letting hyperinflation take care of the value of my purchase. The merchant gets EUSD, which then they can offload into fiat via USD. There's a variety of third-party market makers that will essentially provide that discounting service to say, just like there's We Buy Gold places in every town, there will be We Buy EUSD and Epic enterprises that compete to offer that off-ramp, in other words, between cryptocurrency tokens on the EUSD side, which are of course only valuable in crypto land, to electronic dollars in bank accounts that are valuable in meat space. And so by creating that decentralized bridge mechanism, we've got a solution that enables me to use the stored value of my Epic. I don't have to sell them. I just put them aside. I borrow against them. Merchant gets EUSD. They can either sell for fiat, or maybe they would want to keep a portion in Epic, running through automated market maker type structures. That's what the Cadena partnership is all about. Of work, smart contract platform can do 480,000 transactions per second. Think about that for a second. 480,000 in its current configuration. If they added more chains, they could take it to 1 million. It's a unicorn. They punch way above their weight. So as all these other networks are using proof of stake as their way to attain scalability, and Ethereum itself is moving off of
that 480,000 transactions. Can I shut shut that down by just a sentence of, is that Mimblewimble too?
No,
Okay.
their technology is mind-meltingly amazing. Those guys are some real geniuses over there. Super props.
And who is that again? Just because I missed
Kadena, Kadena. They're our first announced partner for EUSD.
And does Kadena have a coin associated with it?
They do. It's called KDA.
Note to self. Thank you.
Yeah, if
Probably
they're not. Well, they're not explicitly privately focused, so it may be outside your wheelhouse. But I may be able to get someone from there that I know quite well to come on and talk about their tech, because I can't really do it justice.
It doesn't have to be privacy. I want good projects. Yeah, I'm not going to get painted into the corner of exclusively privacy coins. I love me some privacy coins, and that's why I want to learn all about the differences and the similarities and the decisions that you make developing them and why you made them. But when I hear a project like that at the speed of that, Kadena, KDA, I'm glad there's a token. I'm going to go research it. I'm going to do my my work. And and I'm not, if somebody says it's a shit coin, by all means, but I'm going to do my own work. That's dangerous.
Well, everything's a shit coin until it's not.
Please introduce me. I would absolutely love to have them on.
I will. Nobody's ever heard of them because, like Epicenter, they're not pay to play. So a lot of people don't realize that when you hear some influencer saying, "Oh my God, XYZ is the future of whatever." Okay, look under the hood. How much were you paid to say that? And if you weren't paid, how much of that are you holding or getting paid on the side or whatever? Like
that happens.
We get, yeah, we get solicited all the time for coverage. And when it gets to the here's my price stage, that's when the conversations break down. So if anyone out there listening knows somebody that would be interested in having us talk to them like we're doing here now, I'd definitely be willing to make time, just as long as we're on the same page that it's not a commercial thing. It needs to be a public service, like awareness type thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent.
All right, so getting back into it. So basically, the ROI through the unique multi-proof of work mining model offers superior ROI to miners. And as those miners, for example, in Ethereum, are pushed off the network, first by the growing DAG file, and now by this move to proof of stake, they're going to need to go somewhere. And so we're hoping to do an increasingly better job of targeting those people and spreading the awareness that even if you are a long-term believer in Ether and you want to hold more Ether for the long term, then you can get more Ether mining Epic and buying Ether than you can directly mining Ether. You can also dual mine.
By the way, just want to give you a little prop here. Have someone in the chat saying, I like how Max is secure enough in Epic Cash that he recommends other cryptocurrencies. Respect. So that's what I've liked about you too. I've never heard you say one intentionally negative thing. I've heard you talk in comparisons and talk about the decisions that you made that may have been different, but I've never heard you, trash anyone else. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. You're welcome. All right. So ecosystem health and entrepreneurship. So there's over a dozen newly established enterprises around the world who are leveraging the unique functional properties of the Epic blockchain to build a profitable and sustainable business for themselves. And I emphasize those two things because there's a lot of Potemkin villages or VC ghost chains where you'll have billions of dollars of market value and you look at the block explorer and nobody's using it. And then you look at the hot startups that are choosing to adopt their tech and you're like, wait a minute, nobody's using your thing either, but you just got a big grant from the VC money that the projects raised. And so it's a lot of sound and fury, but it signifies nothing except the people that buy it. It's funny because whenever I have somebody from other walks of life that says, hey, you're a crypto guy, I'm excited, I'm a long-term holder, I have a 5-year time horizon, let me show you my portfolio I just bought. And it's inevitably the like ones that get the occasional mention in like a CNBC or something, like you should add a Zcash to your rounded portfolio, or ETH Classic, you know, is a good buy here. And I'm just like, oh my God, like at least like take your money, light it on fire, and at least you'll have a pleasant memory. You know, it's like that other coin that had the pump and dump the other day, where the commenter was like, just post your wallet, like don't bother buying the coin they recommend, just post your wallet and send it to the proprietor. You know, it's much more direct. We can skip with the atomic swap process. So we optimize for sustainability. It's a slow burn. All of our economics at the DAO level are oriented around 7 years and beyond. So we're going to be here not through this pump and dump cycle in the broader market. We're going to be here through the summer and the winter, and the next summer and the next winter and the one after that. And so that long-term commitment that we're not going anywhere can hopefully enable people to take us at face value when we're making statements about what we're doing and plan to do. We haven't talked a lot historically about what we plan to do, because there's a lot of projects that have announcements about upcoming announcements, and vaporware, just nobody has time for that. So we build cool stuff, and when it's ready, it's ready. But also kind of as we grow up, we have an expectation or an obligation to our holders and our participants to know where we're going. If we don't have a destination in mind, then we'll never get there. And so we'll be elaborating a lot of that stuff in our upcoming series of papers that we're working hard on.
Can you educate me real quick? Somebody just triggered me, but can you educate me about pre-mining and why that may be good or may be bad? I just don't have any basis. Why?
Yeah, so pre-mining is good if you are the pre-miner, and then you're the guy dumping into the first froth and pump to the minute the bee comes and lands on the flower, that's your payday. And that's the good part. The bad part is it's really bad for the network as a whole, because it sets up an imbalance between early insiders who got a sweetheart deal and the people who came later. Like if you're paying 100x or 1000x what the guy who did before you, however long ago that was, then you have concentration problems. And so if you look at Doge as an example, even though it's a very old network, I think that one is circa 2013, it's dramatically more concentrated than BTC or say a Litecoin. And so when you have a heavy concentration of holders, as by definition you do with the pre-mine, then you have this haves and have-nots type of problem, and that's exacerbated in proof of stake systems, which the security gets compromised, because what happens if the keys get lost of that big holder? A $5 wrench attack all of a sudden becomes fatal to the network, and that just can't happen in proof of work. So a proof of work network with a pre-mine can survive it, and I would include insta-mines and accelerated emissions and all kinds of sophistry to describe the same thing. Basically, you want as slow a burn as possible, and we went with a full 9 years to match up with BTC, because we said it's really going to be a long haul to try and get any awareness at all, versus the other 10,000 digital assets out there that are pumping hundreds of millions into marketing and influencers and opinion shapers and all that.
So when you pre-mine, that provides you funding for spreading fancy pants and lollipops, or who's different tools for different circumstances and different approaches, different strokes for different folks. We worked really, really hard to avoid incorporating a pre-mine in our design. And in maybe other cases, that's not possible.
But I think if you did a survey of people who would identify as cypherpunks, the people that really believe in the ideals of decentralization and censorship resistance and trustlessness and all that good stuff, almost all of them, if not all of them, would say that a fair launch is not just better, but a firm prerequisite. In other words, a significant population, percentage of the population that we kind of designed Epic to appeal to, it would be just a bright line issue. There's a lot of single issue voters where if it's not whatever, proof of work, Nakamoto consensus, fair launch, no dev fee, you name it, they just won't touch it. And so we wanted Epic to be a neutral, universal platform layer for everyone to build on. The job of a layer one protocol is to be a credible basis of neutrality for people to build on, because as we've seen in BTC lately, okay, well, how do the decisions about Taproot and Schnorr get made? Well, it's guys hanging out off chain that, like, you cannot participate in that process. I cannot participate in that process. And so maybe they're making the right choices, maybe they're not. But I don't want to have to rely on a technocratic priesthood, a secretive technocratic elite priesthood at that, to have my best interests at heart, because I see who's paying the bills. And the hand that gives is necessarily above the hand that receives. And so we have to accept layer two scaling as a compromise, because we can't scale on layer one. Well, why can't we scale on layer one again? Well, the people who are designing the protocol don't want layer one scaling. Why? Because they're getting paid to develop layer twos that depend on the capacity constraints on layer one. So BTC is objectively no longer Bitcoin. Epic is far more Bitcoin than BTC. And over time, those design decisions will compound and snowball to where eventually, I don't know about you, but I don't send many faxes anymore. I haven't written a letter in a long time. I haven't ridden a horse lately. I mean, we still have all these legacy technologies, but eventually, like, who will use them? It's not P2P electronic cash, it's digital gold 2.0, accessed through intermediaries with heavy regulation, surveillance, taxation, and restrictions on what you can do with your money. And so getting all of the key attributes right of the design was super important. And so you mentioned earlier that when you mention Epic, you get shut down with a one-liner. Well, have you ever considered that maybe it's in someone's interest to FUD the price down to accumulate more? I mean, traders get paid to talk their book on the long side. And if you missed out and want to secure a good entry point, the best part is to knock something down so that you can get in when people think the sky is falling. So always remember, you have to think on your feet. If you don't know who the sucker at the poker table is, chances are it's you. And so that's why doing your own research is so important.
It is. It is. And making your own mistakes. I did a video today, took a cigar walk, talked about the mistake I made. And yet, you know, life lessons. Tuition is expensive sometimes. Okay.
Like my mom told me when I was growing up, you know, that I was her mistake. No, I'm just kidding. It's late and I'm tired. On to anonymity and privacy. So the statement that Epic is not as private as Monero is just simply ignorant. I would route people to the video that I've got linked here through from Ian Myers, one of the founders of Zcash. It's called Satoshi Has No Close, Failures in On-Chain Privacy. And so there's somebody
in the chat link to that who might be able to find it. Thank you.
Yeah, Satoshi Has No Close, Adventures in On-Chain Privacy. It's up on YouTube.
I'm going to watch.
Right. So here's the key takeaways. All transactions are blinded with respect to both address and amount. Nobody can see anything except you and your counterparty. So there's another ignorant hit piece called Breaking Mimblewimble from a guy named Ivan Bogatti that is similarly embarrassingly uninformed. There's another rebuttal piece we should link from the Grin team that details the factual inaccuracies in that. So in terms of observability, if we want to get technical about how private, from whom, under what assumptions, for how long, and to what end something is private, because I don't know about you, but I want to make sure that when I split a dinner bill with a friend that he can't see how much money I have, but I don't particularly care if a 3-letter agency knows that I'm transacting using this particular type of crypto versus another. I think most of us are willing to comply with our obligations of wherever we live, and however we may feel about those, it's the law of the land in the place where we choose to be. And so it is what it is. All transactions are blinded. Nobody can see anything, and that provides fungibility. Now, if you want to get technical on the anonymity set, in a single hop in Monero, the so-called ring size, in other words, how many people your transaction is mixed with, so you have this idea of plausible deniability. Oh, it wasn't me, it could have been these 10 other people. Okay, well, maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. But the way it works in Epic is that up to 1,000 transactions, however many are in the block, and it's true there's low usage today, so it would be fairly trivial for a nation state level attacker to de-anonymize, or even less than that, some hedge fund manager that wants to FUD the price down so he can profit on his short, or whatever the motivation might be for such a type of hit piece, who knows, is that the number is 1,000. So, and if we take that to 4 megabyte, it goes to 4,000. And so I know the growth path in Monero is to take it to 128 ring size, but then you compromise the scalability. The relevant figures are that at a BTC level usage, the Epic chain would be about 25 gigs as best we can figure. The Monero chain would, the BTC chain is 300 gigs. The Monero chain would be multiple terabytes. We don't know how many, we haven't bothered to do the math, but it's thousands of gigabytes rather than tens of gigabytes. So 2 orders of magnitude greater data footprint. And when you have that data footprint, you need to have your local devices connect to a remote node. And when you connect to a remote node, you're trusting that that node is faithfully representing the chain state to you. And you're also dependent on access to that node. So maybe there are edge cases and it's not a concern for everybody, but when Turk Telecom wants to shut down the internet in response to a disturbance, maybe one network stays alive for you in that moment and another one doesn't. And so we've engineered a lot of flexibility and future proofing into the design.
I like that word, future proofing. And that's basically just like technology today, you know, versus when Bitcoin was born, is way different, right? The technology in 5 years is going to be way different. And so it's going to be smarter and more clever. And so the ability for some coins that might be private now, I think you shared with me in a private conversation, it's just with yours, it's invisible. Is that the right term? There's just no information there to analyze.
Yeah, so that's another key difference, which is that when you do a transaction in Monero, your transaction remains there in the database, or in the chain rather. And so maybe you have the level of anonymity and privacy you desire today, but who's to say in 5 years that maybe there's some breakthrough that enables tying the data together in some way that isn't presently known, and you're bumming if you depend on that. Now in Epic, you have to catch the transaction at the time, and even then it reveals very limited information. So it's like the needle in a haystack, problem. Obscurity is a level of security all its own. And so in Epic, there's no data there because with this coin join process, essentially all of the coins that are spent in a block get melted together and then reissued. So every coin is essentially always fresh, if that makes sense.
Wow. So it's kind of like taking your fingerprint and fragmenting it, but then it comes out the other side of the fingerprint, right?
It's late and I'm tired, but I'm sure there's somebody creative that could come up with an infographic or an illustration. Anyway, yeah, the way that happens is through a process known as cut through. And so basically, if you have 10 people that are sending coins to 6 recipients, let's say, or 12 or whatever, it basically groups all of the transactions on the one side together with the transactions on the other, and it nets them out. So just if I give you one, you give me one, and we pass it back and forth 100 times, that's 100 transactions that have to be processed sequentially in other systems. In Mimblewimble, it just nets them out and says, okay, at the end, we finished out with IOU1, and so we're going to transfer 1 from here to here. That's why the blockchain is so compact. It actually shrinks from time to time. It's really cool.
This appeals to me right here. I love one pagers that I can understand. This is my day job right here. But I could never have done this. But this is what I'm talking about when I tell people to, when you take something complicated and distill it down to a one pager that most people can understand if they're somewhat knowledgeable and they can read, and there are pictures for me. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. So Dandelion basically bounces the transaction around before committing it to the blockchain. So essentially that you send a transaction there in Tampa and maybe it sprouts out after 10 hops, or, it's a coin flip. So it's a probabilistic rather than deterministic process. But essentially you don't know based on where the transactions are coming from or going to. It's just a little bit of extra OPSEC there. And then this is old. It says Tor is coming soon. We not only have Tor now, but we also have I2P. So in places where Tor is not available, or if you don't like it for whatever reason, then you've got I2P as an additional channel. All right, so I'm going to just run through here because we're getting short on time.
Yep.
So trustlessness. If you've got Monero on an exchange, I recommend strongly that you withdraw it immediately and keep it in your personal possession, because exchanges, most notably Binance, are wildly upside down. Exchanges work on a fractional reserve model, and they take your deposited assets and then they lend those out to traders, many of whom who have a short side bias. So you're contributing to the price suppression of your asset if you leave it on a centralized exchange. And you're also taking a big risk that if they go belly up, you won't get your coins. And so Epic is only traded on DEX platforms such as VTEX, StellarX, Stellar Term, Pancake Swap, and Uniswap. WAN swap on WAN chain, which is a great little ETH L2, is also coming. So we just think DEX infrastructure is safer and better. It's worth the.
Lost you, Max.
Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that.
No
the phone just interrupted my
sure
my Zoom. Sorry, where was I?
You were talking about Pancake Swap, and you were in that area. I think market manipulation is your next point.
Yeah, so just it's a lot more organic in Epic as far as price discovery and transparency. The beauty of trading on DEXs is that everything is transparent. so you can go in and see who's doing what and have confidence that there's no funny business.
Mm-hmm.
So censorship resistance is very important, but we'll skip it. Accessibility. So being able to accommodate any arbitrary number of proof of work algorithms. We're currently running 3, but there's a number more that we're going to add. Just it stands to reason that being able to mine on CPU plus GPU plus ASIC plus mobile plus tensor processing unit for AI and machine learning. There's a lot of farms that are underutilized. And so if we can figure out how to get a TPU targeted algorithm that might contribute to the marginal economics of the AI industry and be interesting there. There's also stuff.
This is such a shit coin. It's just blatantly obvious. It's just, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, at some point we'll have to give up the con because we just won't be able to maintain the facade and pretense anymore.
Beware of one sentence rebuttals, guys. That's all I'm saying. Do your own work. Okay.
Yeah. So smartphone mining, I mean, technically you can already do it. It's just not practical. And so we're modifying RandomX to random ARM, which will make it feasible for people to plug in, say, an old cell phone that's on Wi-Fi sitting in a drawer. Okay, it won't wear out the battery or the screen. It's just sipping a bit of CPU cycles for things like your friend's call center application.
Right.
Essentially, the environmental perspective, again, getting back to the primary market that we're going after, which is BTC versus Monero specifically, is that the environmental footprint is a growing concern of crypto mining. And there's a lot of focus on energy consumption, which you can't really get rid of because that's a feature, not a bug in the design. That's the whole point of the system, is to create this market for a contest for electricity destruction is at a fundamental level how the system works and what it relies on. And so how do you retain that ability to contribute electricity in the real world into that system to create value in the digital world? In the BTC context, you have hundreds of millions of pounds annually of toxic electronic scrap devices that are e-waste that ends up in landfills because you have these disposable single-purpose devices that can't do anything else, that have to be produced and bought and then eventually decommissioned and sent to landfills in most cases because they're not really viable to recycle. You've got this giant growing waste stream, and in Epic you don't have that. And so if you look at the economics of, say, mining, well, why do we need to spend tens of billions of dollars in CapEx? Those who say that that price follows hash rate are simply wrong. No, the price has followed hash rate, but if you look at it logically, it shows that correlation is not causation, and in this case, they have the direction of the arrow wrong. The ability of the market to produce hash rate is entirely a function of the price, and you just have to look at the data or do a simple thought experiment to realize that. So it's interesting that the thinking, the predominant dogma or orthodoxy is so backwards wrong there. But in other words, the more silicon that you can bring to bear into securing the network, the more silicon there will be, and the more decentralized it will be. And because of Metcalfe's law, we know that network effects means that the more people you bring in, the more valuable being inside the network is, because it's better to have a universal communication medium rather than one that can only be used in a certain country. Like, let's say, the internet versus CompuServe, or the Chinese Great Firewall internet versus the rest of the world's internet. There are lots of examples on that. So decentralization is really important, and the environmental benefit is not just that the e-waste stream doesn't get created. It's also that, just like your friend with the call center, he's already sunk the capex, the capital expenditure, to buy the devices, and he can get a much better OpEx performance, a direct return to the bottom line with assets he already has by mining. That is not a company that gets spun up to go and build a facility, and that's their whole business, is just mining, and the reward from mining the coins that needs to be sold off on the market to satisfy the costs, the rent, the land, the bill from the electric company. Qualitatively, the miners who secure the network are different in terms of their motivation of why they're mining. They're more likely to be holders because they have the ability to hold because of the economics of their operating structure at the micro level. And so it could lead to some very interesting behavior where you've got this ongoing sell pressure from a cartelized, highly regulated, just heavy cost structure that's mainly Wall Street and banker driven, versus an organic homebrew everyman type of model. It's almost like during Prohibition, the bathtub gin producers or the moonshiners with the stills versus the Canadian bootleggers bringing in quantity across the Great Lakes. It should be fascinating to see.
Okay. Wow. All right.
All right. We'll keep talking here. All right. So thanks, House Monkman, for pointing this out. Epic should actually have some street cred because we implemented the RandomX algorithm almost 3 months before. The next algorithms are likely to be not just random ARM for mobile, but also SHA-3. SHA-3 is a variant of SHA-256 that enables you to make a very, very cheap USB stick type miner, where imagine in a developing market, a price point of $10 or even below could be reached. Okay, well now it becomes really within reach of people that don't even have a smartphone. Just plug it into the cafe. I know a guy that is figuring out how to mine at his gas station in the Philippines. I mean, like, yeah, 20 coins there. He did the math. He's like, this is for my grandkids. I'm gonna put them through college with this humble mining on this computer. And I'm like, wow, Epic is a thing that can enable somebody like that to go so far beyond their station. I mean, imagine you're working that kind of a job in the Philippines, and you have the truck and the enterprise and the chutzpah to lift yourself up by those bootstraps.
Awesome.
And then connecting that type of guy to others of his kind around the world. And then it really becomes profound. So SHA-3 is very interesting because it enables a super low price point on miners. And one idea there is to set up sort of like a impact ROI oriented rather than financial ROI oriented distribution channel, where maybe people, philanthropic organizations that care about climate change, that wanted to subsidize green energy, maybe would buy a batch of them and then give them out to people that were using only renewable energy. I have another friend in Canada that lives off grid, and when it's a sunny day and the batteries are full, the ability of his equipment to generate electricity is essentially wasted. And if you can not waste that, but plug your solar energy into the grid, the financial grid through Epic, it gives you another way to meet your budget there. Yeah, the possibilities are really cool. Natural gas flares or hydro, all kinds of stuff. So again, future. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just Beam Scooty, Uncle Vigilante, Crypto Educates. So thank you. We're trying. We are trying to peel back the layers of the onion And again, if you didn't miss it, or if you weren't here from the beginning, this was originally going to be a private conversation to where I was just trying to wrap my mind around all of this stuff because I'm doing my work. And he said, why stop there? Let's live stream it, and other people can benefit too. So, all right, let's continue.
All right, let's continue. So funding, this is pretty key. So Monero, as I understand, and again, if anybody knows this better and can correct me, maybe my information is old, but I believe that the sole funding mechanism, certainly the primary one, is the CCS, the Community Crowdfund System. Epic has a community crowdfund system informally, loosely, in the form of Epic Fund Me, and individual people that kind of rally whatever little budget to do certain things. But it's not anything formal, serious, organized, anything like that yet. So we have a community fundraising rail today that works, but we've also, and we intend to iterate that in a number of ways, but we've also got the vanishing developer subsidy that comes off of the blocks on Epic for a little while longer. And so as soon as we launch the DAO, that funding stream goes into the ECR treasury.
What is a DAO?
So a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. It's essentially a corporation that has ownership and control through tokens rather than shares in meat space.
Okay, I love meat space. I have never in my life heard that term before, but the second you said it, I got it. It's like, it's so funny. All right, sorry.
All right. So the treasury, or the developer subsidy coming off of the protocol goes into the DAO, and then the disposition of that, ECR token holders will decide where it goes. So if we as a community want to do the shitcoin pump thing and go get a hot bit listing or something like that, which I don't advise, we can do that if the community wishes through the ECR token, and everybody will know for all time how we arrived at that process or that decision, which I think is important. So 20% of the protocol inflation at the ECR level goes to the DAO treasury, and those resources are used primarily to grow the network through mechanisms like airdrop, air grab, not so much airdrop, only maybe more air snipe, very certain targeted cases. Like if you're running a node on another network, then you're probably a very suitable fit for us and are worth some special attention. But in general, the way an air grab works is by demonstrating proof of keys. If you have 1,000 tokens or coins on whatever network, you can just register your address. And if you do, then you'll split the reward of those ECR token drips that come out. So the DAO treasury has an inbuilt funding mechanism that runs over time. And then we also set up a passive for-profit commercial monetization vehicle in the form of something called Epicenter Equity Corp, or EEC. In this case, 30% goes there, and it's designed to provide investment exposure to the ECR token to people that are unwilling or unable to participate in the token economy, but they're comfortable working in the legacy economy, people that might want to invest in fintech startups, as an example. Mm-hmm. And so it's not as if we're going to have a fancy office with secretaries and a water cooler and all that. No, it's just simply a financial device to bridge the traditional equity market, because of course, eventually there's a pubco path there. One EEC share is equivalent to 13,000 ECR tokens over a 7-year period. And so if you want to essentially get exposure to future ECR, you can do that through the equity of this vehicle, or at least that's the idea.
Cool. So
there.
that potentially draws institutional investors.
Absolutely, we've got an allocation of tokens of ECR for institutional supporters that we think could be a fit. There's currently 23 on the list.
Wow,
I know we've discussed a couple of them, but yeah, the data point there is that as per the most recent Goldman Sachs research report, over 50% of global macro funds are allocating to crypto at the moment. And so we've reached that inflection point where the asset class is not going away. And the infrastructure that institutions need to be able to engage with these markets is increasingly there. Things like custody and audit support and legal opinions and compliance guidance and just all the different things, reasons why not to get into crypto. Steadily, those are falling away, and institutions are meeting that demand. So we're leaning into that. We are very cypherpunk oriented philosophically, but as a practical matter, Epic needs to be a money system for everyone. And that means reaching across the aisle to, I mean, even countries at war trade with each other, and soldiers during World War I on Christmas, the story goes,
right,
put their rifles down and played soccer with each other, and then went back to killing. So we want to be neutral. We want to be a friend to everyone and an enemy to no one.
I just have to stop and insert myself here because this is important to me. But are you guys hearing this? As we're going through this, are you hearing this? This is so well thought out, and there are so many moving parts, and there's so much vision here. Can you see how dangerous it is to just shut something down with one sentence? I mean, I feel a little passionate about this because, this is the kind of work, put it this way, this is the kind of work I'm going to do. And I want to, for some of us, it goes way over our heads. For some of it, it may go over your mask. I don't know. But this is what is so important in my mind of determining a good investable project and giving the opportunity for leadership to be able to come in and to be able to educate us down at a technical level. Again, it may go over our heads, but the fact that I'm seeing this as a business person on how well thought out this, even if you take a look and say white paper or business plan or whatever, but my gosh, Max, you have just, you've blessed us with a ton of knowledge that you've dropped. And I'm just reinforcing the fact that be careful out there, guys, when somebody with one sentence or somebody who just simply declares in a Telegram chat that something is a shit coin or epic trash or whatever the next coin is, because it rhymes, just be careful with that. Let's do our own work. And if you continue, if you hit that like button and you subscribe, it's the box of chocolate thing. You never know when I'm going to live stream necessarily. You never know who's going to be on, but I guarantee you that both you and I will learn something. Okay, sorry, Epicenter Labs.
Oh, you're too kind. Thank you for that. So this is a great article on horizontal versus vertical scaling and how over the months and quarters and years to come, other systems may fare as they cope with growing burdens placed on them. Epic is really built for the super long haul, and even 5, 10 plus years. We've asked ourselves what's next after Mimblewimble, and maybe there is something, maybe there isn't, but really we think that Epic is not really a privacy coin. We think everything else is a surveillance coin. And if you look at it that way, you have to say that those chains eventually will only be used in use cases where that's a feature rather than a bug. For example, at Uniswap, which is now getting taken over by the World Economic Forum, Or if you want to use BTC on Twitter through Strike over the Lightning Network, the first step is you plug in your KYC information and your birth date and social security number and all that stuff. And that's a business imperative for Twitter to do. I understand it. But from a user perspective, if you don't have a social security number, or you're unwilling to provide it, or you live in a region where Twitter is unwilling or unable to provide service, then again, you've created barriers. You don't have an internet of money. You have a walled garden. You have CompuServe connecting to AOL, connecting to Prodigy, rather than a seamless system. And maybe that doesn't matter so much today, but over time it will. So the chain size, Epic is 1.5 gigs. We already covered that. There's an interesting point about when Epic becomes a multi-asset system, that essentially the token transfers that are need to be processed individually in an Ethereum style system are able to be bundled and batch processed through the same or a similar netting mechanism. Essentially, it exploits the fact that there's an infinity of points on any given elliptical curve. And so if you play on that string and pull it out, what you get to is a system that gets more scalable and more secure and cheaper as it grows. So what happens when systems hit their capacity ceilings behavior is very different. The Binance Smart Chain seemed very smart until all of a sudden the gas fees went up by, I don't know what it was, 1,000% or something when it hit the limits of their configuration. And even if that was an edge case that doesn't happen often, it shows that when bullets are flying and markets are chaotic and there's heavy demand, you're going to have access or maybe not. And here you will. And so over the course of a couple of cycles, that reliability itself should command some sort of premium, because a reliable system is probably worth more than an unreliable system.
Hey, question.
Yeah.
There's a question in the chat, and I think it's a really good one. Albus is asking, ask him about the sending and receiving funds because they don't use wallet addresses. And the answer, just so you know, you have some folks in here, you can use Vite Wallet on your iPhone or an Android smartphone to send Epic Cash back and forth. Vite uses an address. You can send via IP or file, and there are solutions that use addresses. And then the question was, let's see, no, then it says you can also send and receive by file on the native blockchain. And then Albus asked this final question. Yeah, I see, but most people don't know what it means to send by file or IP. So
sure.
Can you comment on that? Because that is one thing is, ultimately when we get into this is the user experience, I'm hoping just becomes such a special part of this, almost like back when Jobs was creating Apple, his vision was, how do we create that that user experience that
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. So remember, we're in 2010, and back
Right.
then in BTC, you were talking command line.
Yep.
And we're in the punch card era, and so we have taken the time to put together something that we think we can really be proud of, rather than just something to get that box checked on the spec sheet, which is the native mobile wallet. But the biggest challenge in terms of usability is that it was thought that Mimblewimble transactions always had to be interactive, as they currently are. That turns out there's not the case, or it is not the case. There are 4 separate proposals for what are known as non-interactive transactions. And we've selected one. Incidentally, it's the David Burkett proposal from Litecoin and Grin camp. And so when we do that, then the ability to send to a traditional address like any other coin is there. But today it is an interactive process, which means that you need to go through an HTTP wallet listener, which used to require opening ports. You think it's bad now. You used to have to like go into your router configuration and open ports, and it was a nightmare. So now it's a bit easier, and we will continue to make it so. But back to the file capability, I think that's a really interesting point, because the way a file works is, if I want to send you coins, I generate the first half of the transaction. I send it to you, let's say through email or Telegram or WeChat or whatever, any way that you can get the message. You sign that, send it back to me, and then I commit that to the blockchain, and we're done. And so while it's not currently widely used, it creates the possibility for very powerful novel workflows, such as what I've got up on the screen here, which are essentially emoji graffiti transactions. So let's say once we have this up and running, and it's actually not a heavy lift. If people think this is cool, ping me and I'll tell you how we can do it relatively quickly. People could be copying and pasting strings of emojis through the chat stream here on YouTube and paying each other. And
Wow.
so if you think in terms of censorship resistance, well, I want to stop people from paying each other. Okay, great. You can't post emojis on Twitter and Facebook anymore. Right.
Awesome. Right.
Yeah.
This has just not been very well thought out, but it's awesome. I'm joking. That was a joke. This is crazy. This is so cool. Atomic Swap has my attention.
Yeah, so those are all the chains that we can support out of the box. The code already exists. It's just a matter, again, of the will to go ahead and use it. Atomic swaps have been around for a long time, but nobody uses them. You got to find a counterparty. How do you work with nodes on the different chains? And just like, there's a whole bunch of...
Are you open, Max, to reaching out to supposed competitive coins like R or PRCY?
The only competitive coin is the Federal Reserve note, and I'm not interested in collaborating with them. But all of the ones on this list, absolutely. And we've got air grabs scheduled, where if you hold some R or BSV, those are two ones that are near and dear to my heart for different reasons. You'll be able to air grab a bit of free ECR simply for owning those by registering your address. That's one thing. We're going to add them to Atomic Swap support.
A lot of people watching this are R holders, because we love us some R and we are pirates. This show is just a bunch of like-minded people. So we are R holders. So this is really interesting. You're saying that the fact that we hold R, we're going to be able to grab some Epic?
Not some Epic, some ECR, the Epicenter DAO governance token. So we've got a budget penciled in where, however, let's say whether it's 1 person, 10 person, or people, 1,000 people, whatever the number is, however many people claim it, they will share that bit of ECR tokens. There's no marketing angle, no personal data collection. It's just simply, we would like to present a bit of like a welcome gift, let's say, if because again, the values overlap so closely. If you're a holder of one of these coins, then chances are, if you take the time to consider it, you may like what you find here. And we can't give you Epic because it's a proof of work coin, and there's no free lunch in a proof of work system. But in ECR, we do have that at the DAO level, and so it's a way of including other communities, and
that's cool.
However many people want it, yeah, and
the difference between a grab and a drop, because those of us who have been dropped on, you may open a MetaMask, and all of a sudden you're like, what are all of these coins?
Yeah, no, you got to grab it.
It's like, yeah. So this requires action, so that you aren't just another spam coin.
and not just the spam coin, we're also not a security, because by reinforcing the notion of active participation constantly through these various methods, XRP holders had a very bad day a few months ago when the SEC dropped the hammer. They killed the Kin project. They killed Graham. Library under attack. You don't get a second chance if you've managed to run afoul of regulators for whatever reason. And so one of the pillars of the Howey test is satisfied by doing our best efforts always. We can't prevent anyone, of course, from passively holding the ECR tokens, but it's explicitly designed to be an active thing. It's an intentional community, and your participation in it beyond just having your finances tied into it is a big part of that. And so we've carefully designed it on a number of levels to reinforce that Epicenter works better if you work it.
So all you ARRR holders out there, just keep paying attention, and you just might want to just start paying attention to Epic Cash and do your own work, which, I think just listening to this video, you can't help but to say, I'm in. When there's a grab, I'll reach up and grab it. And thank you.
And mine, if you have an old laptop sitting in a drawer, if you're getting free rent, or not free rent, free power at your lease, if you have a render farm and you've got idle GPU capacity, I mean, the numbers are simply breathtaking, even at today's values. And when you look at the potential value, I mean, we really don't focus on that, but there's a report coming out before too long here, where if you look at it on a price per square foot basis, on a fully diluted market cap value of Epic versus XMR, the math is Epic would need to be $3,000 a coin, more than that, about 3,200 the last I checked, versus a current price of 50 cents. So if the world saw a similar value in Epic as it does in Monero, which is 3.6 billion, that would be a 6,400x move from here. And the use case of Monero is, practically speaking, use cases that other technologies like BTC don't serve. For example, dark nets and privacy-oriented usage, where Epic can be used by absolutely everyone without compromises of any sort, except for usability, of course, and other things that stem from it not being bad, but simply being new and not having had enough time to germinate and sprout and gestate.
But I think definite advantages, though, of being you're still on the leading edge, but not on the bleeding edge. So one example is, 10 years advanced technology from Bitcoin's origin.
No technical debt. We are not a BTC fork. It's a novel code base written in Rust rather than C++.
Wow. Yeah, that's exciting. That's exciting. And I know it's going to be exciting for those watching who are holders. And so, yeah, excellent.
Yeah, okay. So finishing it up here, I know we're running a bit over, but we can stay for questions if anybody has it. So in terms of the team, officially we have no team because everyone's the team. If you're a holder, you're a contributor. Even if you're not a holder, then everyone is welcome. So we're a bit unique in that respect, or not unique versus Monero, but really Monero was really the model that we designed our structure after most closely, is because the cellular model of decentralization is really powerful in terms of censorship resistance and anti-fragility and resilience. And so we've managed to gain a lot of solidity despite having a formal mechanism such as the DAO to come together. And so as we did a census of who is here, who is doing something, who cares, who's in the boat, basically, we came up with a list of 133 active contributors. And it's important to note that we're all volunteers. Everyone's here because they want to be, not because they're getting paid. And we've managed to do everything that we've achieved so far. Obviously, a lot of this stuff involves extensive technical research over years and years, and that doesn't come lightly. So we've done everything with no resources, and now to be able to avail ourselves of some of the same mechanisms like access to institutional investors and VCs and just all these different doors that were closed. I mean, hell, how many people think Epic is a shitcoin because they heard somebody they respected say, "Ha ha, Epic trash, I'm so smart," and then that's the end of it. How many minds are flipped in the off switch that will flip into the on switch? And how many people have you told Epic about that looked at it and they're like, "Man, that thing sucks. Here's my logic as to why I'm out." Have you ever heard that before?
No.
Neither have I. Yeah, so we know what we're doing. The CSA of Epicenter Labs.
What's Epic trading at now? Is it like 50 cents?
50 cents.
Yeah. And do the math for folks again, the market cap.
Okay, so the market cap is $5 million.
So educate us newbies. What does that mean when you see a project that has a small market cap but has this much vision and juice behind it?
I can't speak to anyone else's juice, but let's just pick something we know. So if you're in R, you rationally, for that to be rational, you're expressing the belief that Pirate Chain is 120 times more valuable than Epic. That's the ratio, 120 times. In the case of Pirate Chain. So let's look at that one. Let's look at XMR. In the case of XMR, 3.9 billion. Now 3.9 billion divided by 11. This screen sharing thing covers the new tab. Okay, so 3.9 billion. Actually, here I'll just copy it so we have the exact number. And let's get the current circulating supply. This is pretty cool. The target difficulty, for those who believe this is something I feel strongly about, that price follows hash rate. Well, no, it doesn't, because aside from BTC data, we can see in our controlled experiment here of how the hash rate responds to different market circumstances. We've got the data. So there's a bit of noise here related to the value overflow incident. This is what this weirdness is about, as we were out of service to restore the chain and patch it and make sure it was all good. So anyway, the green line is RandomX and the blue line is ProgPow. And it's really interesting to see if you triangulate this versus other coins that your GPU can run, say Ethereum or Raven or Monero or WoW on the CPU. You've got these little micro markets. So anyway, the current supply is 11.6 million. And if we divide by that, so yeah, 339 bucks. So I was off by a decimal place earlier. I think I may have said 3,100. Maybe that was for something else. But in the case of Monero, so you're talking about a 50-cent lottery ticket that maybe pays out at 339. Now, really, that's not a fair comp, because the only, or let's say the primary use case of Monero is for applications that need privacy, whereas Epic is also great for applications that don't, and applications that cannot use privacy, because the EUSD side is fully transparent, running on surveillance blockchains such as Ethereum and Solana and Cardano and Tron and Binance Smart Chain and Polkadot and Cosmos. EUSD and ECR will be extended to 32 EVM compatible smart contract chains. And so essentially EUSD is inverse Epic. We know about the concept of inverse ETFs from the stock market. You can think of EUSD as an inverse position on Epic, but no carrying costs. And so really Litecoin is a better target. So let's look at Litecoin. Now, Litecoin has 9 billion of value. So let's just take that. 768.
Wow.
So you're scrounge up a buck or find a way to mine a whole coin. Most of us are not able to afford a whole BTC anymore, or even a whole XMR at a couple of $100. But if you can find your way to become a single coin holder, this protocol has what it takes, we believe, to expand the industry by an order of magnitude or two beyond where it stands today, just simply because we don't have the technical limitations. And
right.
the user stuff, I mean, I think most people misunderstand the nature of network effects and first mover in crypto, because it's not as if MySpace kills Friendster and then Facebook whacks them and then there's what's next. No, here, if you think about it, all the infrastructure, all the crypto ATMs, stuff like Tether, fiat on-ramps, GBTC, ETFs, exchange traded products, all the hedging infrastructure, institutional custody, all of that stuff is plug and play for Epic. The fact that it's BTC doesn't mean it's exclusively BTC. If the business case is there, then they'll switch. And so if you have universal money or money that can only be used in certain places, then which one is valuable, all else being, or more valuable with all else being equal? And so every Epic is identical because they're fungible. Every BTC is unique because you need to evaluate how tainted is this coin. A freshly mined coin sells for the highest price out there. It's factory fresh, it's pristine, it trades at a premium. If you want some schlocky, like 5-hop from a darknet market through a Chinese OTC broker, you're getting a great price, but maybe when you deposit it onto the next place, they'll freeze your account because it's too dirty for them, and now you're a money laundering terrorist.
Wow. And I know that's legit. I mean, that's.
Well, hold on. Let's see. Crypto community horrified by Coinbase's IRS DEA analytics play. So not only do they freeze your money, but they've got a direct line to the cops so that you can be subject to further inspection. So if you sell your car for BTC on Craigslist and the guy is unsavory, you get a knock on the door the next morning, and the onus is on you. The burden of proof is to show that you are not, as the evidence indicates, an accomplice and an accessory in the network of crime. Yeah, we haven't seen people starting to go to jail for tainted coins, but we will. And when they do, they'll understand fungibility. And so we don't have enough time to unpack the whole fungibility issue. But if we did,
but that's the knock. You're not as fungible as Monero. That's the one-liner.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope based on the other one-liner that people would maybe take it at face value without support, that is not the case. And I'm happy to get into it another time.
Sure.
But I mean, facts are facts, and opinions related to those facts don't change them.
Yes. Wow, this is fantastic. All right, let's so we
questions.
the takeaway on this, or I mean the takeaway on that exercise we just went through, which is really important to me, and it's the fact that when I'm not telling you what coin you should acquire, I'm not providing that service. But I am providing the service of being able to interview and talk to people who have an open floor and an open mind to be able to present so that you watching this can make your own decisions. I don't care what you do. It's like, I have no skin in the game except that, yes, indeed, let me raise my hand. I am an Epic Cash investor. I invested in Epic Cash after the first time I talked to Max, because he just exudes unconscious competence in my point of view. But that's just my point of view. I don't know what yours is. But okay, what else? Have we missed anything good? Is there anything to go out with? Because I know you've invested a couple hours, and I think we're both exhausted in a good way.
Yeah, so think for yourself, do your own research, and if somebody makes a statement, ask them to support it with evidence, and then evaluate that evidence. And so if you do that, then maybe you'll find your next winner. The people that have been in the journey so far have found it quite lucrative for themselves, and there's a lot of opportunity here. We're just in the first pitch of the first at bat of the first game of the World Series. It's very, very early, but it's not so early that that there's a significant risk of some thing coming up. Like we've all seen things like Titan and Iron blow up recently. These are serious design challenges that are important to get right. And so maybe we move a little bit more slowly than other projects, but we have an emphasis on safety. And when we do one part, we don't want it to blow up before we move to the next. And so as we embark on the sort of DeFi and DEX legs of our journey as Epic becomes, as Epic branches out into ECR and its offshoot EUSD, we need to make sure that we stay on safe ground. And so perhaps I should also talk about the value overflow incident briefly as a final maybe point of FUD, which BTC had the same thing happen in 2010. They handled it the exact same way. We found a solution that didn't involve compromising the integrity of the design at a technical level or the people involved at the social level. And we survived our first major test or crisis. And so, whereas when we launched the white paper, we were merely asserting that the system had excellent censorship resistance properties. And now that's gone to a higher level of proof because we've just gone through a 50 cal gunshot wound to the face and survived. I mean, it's literally like these type of systems cannot have a worse problem than happened. And yes, it was traumatic and it shook us, but we emerged stronger. And so because we've emerged stronger, the risk margin that is there as far as unproven and untested mechanisms, it's like that hurdle has been cleared, if that makes sense.
Hey, let me ask you this, because it just seems like it's a thing these days. Will there be staking involved with the coins?
Yeah, so the way it'll work is as an Epic owner, if you stake your ECR, of course, the USD is hyperinflating to oblivion. The challenge in a stablecoin system over the long term is to have the quantum of stablecoins match broadly the amount of dollars in existence in the broader system, which is tough because we call them the same dollars, but you have offshore dollars or stranded euro dollars. You also have bank deposits, base money, bank money, checking accounts, current accounts, derivatives. It all resolves to the common unit of account, but it's very choppy. People think crypto is volatile. No, the emission of the Federal Reserve note is volatile, and the emission of Bitcoin is stable and perfect. So
go ahead and stop your screen there real quick.
Yeah.
And then folks will be able to, well, they'll be able to see my face anyway to take us out.
I'm sorry. What was the first part?
Oh, I said just go ahead and stop the screen share unless you have
Oh,
something
stop the
else.
screen share. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
No, here you go.
because I know we're
Okay,
just
there we
chatting
go.
now. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. It's Uncle V. And I don't know shit. So, all right. Okay, so staking, the answer is yes. You will have staking.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for getting us back on track. It's late here.
No problem.
This has been fun but intense. So essentially, as a proof of work coin, it cannot have staking. But
Cash not have
ECR, well, ECR has staking, and that enables us to do a staking like experience for Epic holders, because we're going to constantly need to create more EUSD to match the hyperinflation of USD. And the way that that process gets determined is just as if you hold R, you can get an air grab of ECR, just as the way that ECR gets created is that if you held one Epic as of the snapshot on February 28th, then you can claim one ECR token per Epic. That same idea, your proportional ownership of Epic, coupled with your staking or lack thereof on the ECR side, decides who gets the spigot access of EUSD. So we've engineered in the Cantillon effect to bake in different behavior in the different networks.
Use some Epic tokens to pay to have the network fully audited, from Randy.
Sure. I mean, yeah. Well, what we'll use is ECR, so that's the mechanism for that type of stuff. So sure, we will put stuff like this to a governance vote, and whoever holds ECR and however we want to use our resources, that's the tool to do it. So yeah, audits are great, and the budget is there. Let's do it. Write a proposal on the governance front end as soon as it goes live here soon.
So last questions. What you went through, this paper or this analysis, is that available anywhere for people?
Yeah,
who...
I shared it in your chat earlier. And
okay,
if not, we can share it around.
This chat will disappear. That's what happens with these live streams.
No, on your Telegram, Uncle Vigilante's Lounge.
Oh, okay, cool. So, okay, thank you. So
it's in ambassadors too.
Okay, this is great. Thank you for reminding me, because that'll be the carrot that if you're watching, if you're still hanging in there by now, well, you are a trooper, because we went deep. And so if you please do go to t.me/Uncle Vigilante Lounge, not an S in there. It's not Uncle Vigilante's.
And our Telegram is just Epic Cash.
Okay, that one's easy to remember. So it'll be in there as well. But join the Epic Cash Telegram. And those of you who are interested in mining, there's also an Epic Mining Telegram, right, Max?
Yep. There's Epic Miners and Epic Cash Trading. A lot of the activity is off chain. If you go to CoinGecko, you go, man. But then you don't realize that there's a very healthy OTC market going P2P. So if you need to find a counterparty for, it's not atomic swap, so there is trust involved, but it's a strong enough community that it's easy to find somebody to volunteer as an escrow, to bridge the trust gaps on both sides. So if you want to get a block OTC off market, you can do so in Epic Cash Trading. And then we've also got Epic Cash Help Desk, where there's volunteers from the community available 24/7 to help people get going, or even just any kind of problem. There's always people there. So if you hit a roadblock in any area and you're frustrated, just go there and somebody can help. Even if it's not in English, just type it in your language and somebody will figure out how to respond. It's funny, in Chinese they call it digging.
Right.
I know, isn't that cute? How do I dig?
I had a buddy, as you know, Max, because I inquired, and who was looking to buy about a half a Bitcoin worth of Epic, and through that Epic trading,
Epic cash trading.
Epic cash trading. He was able to do that without
great.
what we know happens, which is moving the market, right? To where when you buy into it, all of a sudden you start buying into yourself. Monday, my PTSD comes to mind. So go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good point. I also should mention that we have at Freeman University is what we call it, which is basically a free online peer-to-peer learning concept focused around cryptocurrency and blockchain at all levels. We talk about a lot of highly technical stuff, but we also do our best to appeal to more novice people, and that helps us understand the usability challenges. And so right now it's very nascent and working proof of concept, sort of like minimum viable product stage level. But the idea there is that over time we use some of those ECR DAO treasury resources to create a funded educational experience for people, where if you're 15 years old and you're thinking about working a summer job out in the fields harvesting millet, where you could earn the same money in an air-conditioned place learning the code in Python or something. I mean, just if the money is the same, you'd rather do the Python coding, if you can, than the millet harvesting out in the hot sun. And so it's a long-term seed to plant, but over time, we think that creating some economics around enabling people to get education that's actually useful to help them earn a living today versus some of the more abstract stuff like, great, I have a gender studies degree, but I also have $100,000 in student debt, and now like I have this millstone around my neck, versus I put myself through college because I started knocking around code in high school, right. and even further down. 10 cents is a lot of money to a kid, and Epic is a great micropayment rail. And if you watch your pennies accumulate into nickels and dimes and dollars, by the time you get to college, maybe you're independently wealthy. And then because those people have absorbed the life lessons and the values of our community, they're more likely to engage in constructive things to be helpful in their community, rather than the conspicuous consumption, sort of like hookers and blow type motivation. And so qualitatively over time, nothing wrong. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. So yeah, I mean, we don't emphasize that too much, because a lot of times the virtue signaling, like done for optics only, window dressing, comes off as inauthentic. But we thought a lot about what are our values, what are our reasons for doing this, because ultimately the technical details can change and you need to be resilient, but you need to have like a common cause, an agreement on at least certain things, if not all things, because if you don't, then you have Bitcoin become BTC, BCH, and BSV that all hate each other and don't work together. Imagine how much stronger that ecosystem would be if it hadn't fractured. Ethereum turning into ETH Classic after the DAO, and Charles Hoskinson putting his effort into Ethereum Classic plus Cardano, or Gavin Wood at Polkadot. I mean, imagine if those three guys had managed to remain united, or Dan Larimer at EOS and BitShares and Steem. We think Epic can be the one ring to rule them all, and a way to unite the tribes, and the very carefully designed mechanisms that we're putting into place at the ECR level give us the ability to square the circle through this unique dual chain structure of EUSD on the one side and Epic on the other. Through that one, we look at Epic and EUSD as two sides of the same coin. It's almost like a quantum superposition type of concept.
Wow.
We should wrap it there. Yeah. This has been fun. Thanks.
Yeah. This is one of those, let's drop it there. Once we got to quantum super coinage. This was fun. And hey, guys, thank you for joining us. And Max, thank you for all of your time. And I just appreciate you agreeing to take this public. And because it started private and it just went from there. So tomorrow night, guys, 7 to 9 p.m. Media Bear, come and join us. That's going to be fun. And then for those of you who are subscribers to TCV Crypto, Nathan Stoltman's channel, I'm going to be on with him on Saturday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern time is going to be when I'm on. So go pay Nathan a visit at TCV Crypto and subscribe to him. It's a great, fantastic channel. And Max is, I think we've said it all, my friend, except honey, is dinner still warm?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you. Everybody go download the Veet wallet and go ahead and get a couple of Epic Cash. Just go through the experience. You never know. You never know when Max and I are on next time. Max, I'm going to throw it out there. Would you be open to doing something to where we could start having some just fun? I don't know what it is. I'm throwing this out there, but call it trivia or whatever. And we can send, 5 Epic Cash here, 5 Epic Cash there, just get people used to it and open their wallets and see that it's there. And what do you
absolutely. One of our community members named James Freeman has a group that he set up. I think it's Epic Trivia or something like that. I'll send you the link.
Okay.
But he said, hey guys, we're going to start this trivia thing when we hit such and such number of members. I don't know what it is, but we got very close and then it kind of fizzled out. And so I know he's done a lot of thinking in this area, and that would definitely be great. There's a lot of things about our origin story that are really interesting. Like, for example, being first to mainnet with RandomX, or the difference between our way of doing multi-algo versus some of the other implementations that have had problems. Stuff like a trivia night is great to be able to settle misconceptions about some of those details.
That's
as well.
A great idea.
So I love it.
Once you give me the link, what I'll do is I'll just auto include that in all of my show descriptions so that we can drive people over there so they can get involved, and that'll be a way that you guys can, get some Epic, get you some Epic Cash. All right, guys. Well, that's 2 videos in one day. Wow. So we're good, man. We're good. We've checked that box today, and we'll see you tomorrow, 7 p.m. All right. See you, everyone.